Good morning and welcome to the webinar. We have AIX interview Q&As, do's and don'ts by Inode. I'm a senior Unix interview panelist. Okay, I'm having 15 years of industry experience, and I'm a senior Unix engineer. I'm part of the interview panelist and working with an MNC. TTA has asked me to provide us quick training and give the frequently asked questions in IBM AIX. And to say more about me, I'm 14 plus professional certifications I hold. That primarily holds IBM's certifications, including HACCP, virtualizations, and a bit of cloud as well. Yeah. So that's about me. Before I pitch into the questions, I would like to put forth that in any interviews, there are going to be a few short questions. In the last session, we have covered on tell me about yourself and few of the questions there. And there is an icebreaker session, which is primarily onto the basic system administration side of things. So there would be around 10 questions that's been asked frequently on most of the interviews. They primarily onto the basic system administration side of things. So the first question is primarily onto the boot sequence or boot procedure. Yeah, there's a blog spot which has been linked into this PPT. This would give you a brief overview on the boot sequence. However, the boot sequence is so huge. There are a number of steps are there. So it would be apt if you just highlight some of the few points that I put into the slides. One is the telling about the phases of booting. Yeah, there are 3 phases. One is the hardware boot phase, and the second is the bootstrapping. Third is the OS boot phase. Sorry. So on the hardware boot phase, you need to speak primarily on the SMS menus and ROS. Yeah, so these are the keywords an interviewer would like to hear from you. And on the bootstrap, speak primarily on the BLV, boot logical volume. And there might be a follow-up question if you speak on BLV that, okay, what is the content of BLV? Or if BLV is corrupted, how will you recover it? So these are the few follow-up questions may be triggered. So be ready with that as well. A small hint is like a BLV contains the AIX kernel, it contains the rc.boot scripts, it has a reduced ODM database which is required for booting, and some of the boot commands. Yeah, so this is the BLV's content which holds the first block of your hard drive. And in the OS boot phase, we primarily look for the VG activation, like how the root VG gets activated in read-only mode and what happens with the crash dump, how paging starts, and how it is into read-write mode. So these are the few things that we look at, and it would be better if you pitch on init tab and say about the init tab process. What are the flow inside init tab, what is the default run level, how it picks up, and finally end up with a login prompt. Yeah, so boot sequence is a short question, and I've seen many interviews, especially in L1, L2 category, this question is being asked. As I said, there's a follow-up question like on the BLV. If they ask what is the content of BLV, you already have the answer with. But if they ask you how will you fix a corrupted BLV, yeah, this is nowadays the questions are more towards real time. In case you have a corrupted BLV, your OS is not booting, what do you do? So I've just put in a 4-step process. What you can say is these are the key things that an interviewer look for. You need to actually boot the machine into maintenance mode. So to boot it to maintenance mode, either you need a CD or a tape or via NIM, you have to boot it to maintenance mode. So we are looking for how you boot and into what mode. So normally we boot it either through CD or NIM. Tape is very rarely used. Create a new HT5 logical volume. HT5 is the BLV. Yeah, so you should be aware about all the 10 partitions that hold the root VG. Yeah, so HT5 belongs to the BLV. and it holds 1 pp. Yeah, that's why 512 bytes is the BLV size, and that must be in the root VG. Yeah, so you need to create a new HT5 volume if that is corrupted, and you have to specify the logical volume type. Yeah, if there is HT5 already existing in the system which is corrupted, you need to remove it using the RMLV command. Yeah, and primarily you need to use the -F to forcefully remove that logical volume. And preferably, if you put out in the command line how to create a logical volume, boot logical volume, that makes more apt. Like mklv is the command to create a logical volume, and you know that ht5 is the boot logical volumes, and you are saying the type is a boot partition. Yeah, and you are saying the root VG and saying how many pp's you want. So you are creating with a 1 pp size ht5 logical volume. Now the volume is created. Now you have to run the boss boot command to make it a bootable partition. Yeah. So you have to run the boss boot -AD. So this -AD is the keyword that we look in next for creating or recreating the boot logical volume. So you have to run boss boot -AD and the hard disk name so that it sets up onto the first logical volume. Yeah. Once this is done, you can reboot the machine to boot by a hard drive, and it will boot up with the fixed boot logical volume. So this is not one single question, it's part of 2 or 3 questions. One question is boot sequence, second is contents of boot logical volume, and the troubleshooting on boot logical volume, how will you fix it? Yeah, a very important question, be prepared with. Yeah, make a note on the hyperlink, put in a very useful link that speaks more on the step-by-step sequence. Yeah. Going to question number 2, how will you upgrade a technology level, TL? Yeah, it's a very frequently asked questions in most of the interview. What we look at this kind of question is whether you are process oriented, so you have to speak on the change management process. Yeah, so you need to say why you need to upgrade a TL. A TL is primarily dependent on an application, or a customer keeps in pace with the TL, like n or n-1. N means the current level that IBM releases, or n-1 is the next previous level. Yeah, so some customers follow up with the IBM's TLSP roadmap. Okay. So based on that, you need to raise a change ticket. A change always avoids a risk. So go via the change management process, speak on the change management process, and also speak on the fix central, the site from where you download the technology level. Yeah, so these 2 things will give you some ample space to think and speak to the interviewer. And TLs are always run on committed mode. Yeah, so you know that there's a committed, applied, and rejected modes of installation, where it always runs on committed. You cannot run a TL or install a TL on applied mode. So which means there's always a risk. There's no rollback option available. Yeah, so you need to always take the backup of the OS using NKSSP. You need to take the backup of the data and also some of the health check reports. So you need to highlight this point that TLs are always run on committed mode, so there is no rollback option. So the only option left is to take backup of the system and also the data backup and also some health check report. So highlighting this will give an extra edge to your answer. Yeah, there are some techniques used these days are the all disk update and multi-boss update. So you can speak on that. So what is all disk update is having a second disk where your root VG is copied, and then the installation is done onto that alt disk, and you have to reboot the machine with making the second disk as bootable device. Check the updated TLs are fine, your application is running fine. If everything is okay, you can continue that as a TL upgraded stuff. If not, then you can revert back to the original hard drive and roll back. So that's the option left with all disk update. If you don't have an additional disk, the option is multi-boss, where you are directories for the root VG is created for every logical volume, and update is done onto the multi-boss partitions. Yeah. So this is the stuff which you need to highlight for a TL upgrade. And in the interview, we look for 2 more key points. That is, before installing TL, you need to remove all interim fixes from the system. This is a point that you should always highlight while speaking to in this TL upgrade part. Yeah, so that's one. And also you need to say the commit all applied file sets. Yeah, so one is removing all interim fixes, which means interim fixes are the emergency fixes or something that you do throughout the troubleshooting process or throughout the year. Before applying a TL, you need to remove it. And the second one is you have to commit all the applied file sets. Like there might be some applied file sets, you need to commit them all, clean them, and then you have to run the TL upgrade. So as I said, some of the key points are making a change, taking some backup, and using all disk or multi-boss, and removing interim fixes, committing all applied file sets. So that's the key thing that you need to say on the TL upgrade. Okay, moving on to question number 3. Okay, here is the question number 3. Kinds of OS installation available in AIX. Many a time the candidate gets confused on what needs to be answered, and at the same time, if the question is not properly framed, then the interviewer might be expecting either of these two answers. So it's always better to avoid confusion and state both of them. One is, like, you can say the installation types as a DVD install. Yeah, that's by putting the DVD and booting off through the OS media and then run the installation. The second option is the NIM install, network installation. You can speak a bit on the RTE, that's using LPP source and spot, and also the MKSSB installation. The third is the all disk install that we currently touched, installing onto the second disk and then going on further. So this is the types of installation, and again there's the methods of installation is there. Like one is a new and complete overwrite. Yeah, this applies to all the 3 types of installation. So you can pitch on both. What you can say, the type of installation is DVD, NIM install, and all disk install. Where on all these 3 you can do these methods. The methods are new and complete overwrite. New and complete overwrite means the installation is going to be totally fresh. It is going to wipe off all the previous operating system on that hard drive, and it is going to install fresh. The second is migration install, like moving out from one version to the next higher version. For instance, AX5 to AX6 or AX6 to AX7 is migrate install. And preservation install means like the home directory is preserved. You need to say what directories are preserved during preservation install. Is primarily onto the same OS to same OS version preservation. In terms of some corruption onto the hard drive or to the OS, then we perform preservation install so that the entire OS is been rebuilt, leaving the customer's data which is sitting under the /home directory. Okay. So this is one of the frequently asked questions. So be prepared. The sub questions would be the difference between migration and preservation. I would say, or I would rate this particular question have more value. The reason is this is a question asked on most of the interviews these days. Like how do you mirror AIX root VG? Or they might ask a question other way, like how will you remove a drive from a mirrored root VG? Yeah. So here I put forth how you mirror, but make a point in looking at how you remove a disk from a mirrored volume group. Yeah. So what we are expecting here is, like, you need to have a very constant check on every step. So that's why you find most of the ls commands in here. First you need to determine you have a free hard drive. So you run the lspv command, and from the lspv you need to identify you have any free drives listed. That's under the volume group that no disk is being mapped to. Yeah, let's check one of the drive, and there's a condition that while mirroring, the new disk that you are going to mirror should be equal to or more than the current capacity. Now what you do is you want to you need to include that new hard disk inside this volume group. So you need to extend VG, the volume group name, and the new hard disk number. So your root volume group is extended or added with the new hard drive. You verify it again, run an LSPV, and you can see that the new disk has been added to that volume group. Yeah. The point number 4 is very important. Like most people skip this. Setting the quorum. Yeah, you need to change the quorum so that even if the mirror fails, like quorum is something like a person who looks at whether the minimum number of disks are alive. Yeah, if you have only 2 disks, even if one fails, then 50% of the quorum is gone and your machine will not boot up. So it's better to change the quorum so that even if mirror fails, the system is live. Yeah. So CHVG is to change the volume group content, and -Q is for quorum. And the point number 5 is the actually mirroring happens with this command. The mirror VG, you're mirroring the volume group. Yeah, and you make 2 copies. The -C is for copies. You are making 2 copies of the root VG. So all the logical volumes under the volume group are mirrored. Yeah, and you perform LSVG command again to check whether your mirroring is successful. Initially, all the PPs will be showing you as stale until the full synchronization has happened. Once the sync has happened, you will find that there are some doubling of PPs to LPs. Yeah. So if the copy is 3, then you'll find the 3 PPs per LPs kind of. Yeah. And what you need to do is you need to update the boot image so that you can include the second disk also having the boot logical volume created and capable of booting. The command is boss boot -A so that all the disks inside that gets the boot logical volume. Then you have to create a boot list. The boot list is the way we are saying the system to take that as what should be the boot order. Yeah. Okay. So what we do is boot list -M, and we say it's a normal boot, like it's a normal SMS kind of options are there. So we say normal, and we say the option is HDISC0, HDISC1. So that's the order of priority. First would be HDISC0. If HDISC0 is not bootable, then it boots with HDISC1. And verify the boot order. So you say boot list -M, and you say normal and -O, and hit enter. You find the boot list. This is how we mirror, and also see the procedure for unmirroring it, and also see how you remove one of the copy or one of the disk from the volume group or from the mirrored volume group. Yeah. So these are some of the added questions towards mirroring. Yeah, and this is to understand whether you guys really understand the LVM concepts. Yeah, so they might ask you some of the differences between the different types of VG, like what is the difference between normal VG and big VG, or big VG and scalable VG. So they might ask you in any order. At least you should be able to answer the maximum PVs, the physical volumes for per type of VGs. Yeah. So I would say that you can say 32 PVs per normal VG, 128 for big VG, and 1024 for scalable VG. If you can recollect the logical volumes, the number of logical volumes possibility with each, that would be much better. So the remaining portions like maximum PPs per VG or maximum PP size are optional. We are limited with memory, so at least maximum PVs and maximum LVs would help. Yeah. Some added questions to this are, how will you convert a normal VG to big VG? Yeah, this is a question. So always put change in place. Yeah, so always speak with the process. And the CHVG is to change the volume group type. -B, capital B for the big volume, and you say what volume group name that you need to change. That becomes a big volume group. If they ask you how will you change from normal to scalable VG, so this could be a tricky question. Rather than how to change to big, they might ask about scalable, since there are few steps involved. The first step is to vary of the VG. So obviously you need a downtime to do that. Yeah. So vary of the VG. Go to the VG's properties by going with SVT CHVG, and you have to select yes so that you can change the scalable VG format. There's an option inside SMITI which speaks about scalable VG format where you need to set yes, and then you have to run chvg -G and the VG name. That makes that's how you create a scalable volume group. So these questions are asked on some of the interviews these days. They don't directly ask you the difference these days, so be prepared with these kind of questions as well. Okay, now the user management side of things. Yeah, in user management, nowadays people don't ask you direct questions like what is max user or what is the max date kind of questions. What they ask is, okay, if I want to set the max age for a particular user or max age for all users that I create, on which file should I go and edit? So just these days it's more about speaking on the configuration files. So you should be aware on most of the user management files, and security always starts with user management. Yeah, many people do not pay attention to user management considering that is an L1 job, but in reality the security and other stuff makes user management an L3 task. So you should know what is UTMP, WTMP, which says about unsuccessful login and successful logins, who logged in when it was shut down, and they want to change some environment parameters, where will it change. So it would be better to go through or walk through all these files so that you get exposure to, you get an idea where and what the contents of these files are. Yeah. A sample list of files are put up. There are quite a few other files which has been removed for clarity, but these files, the 10 to 15 files put on the slide, are some of the default ones you should be very much aware of. Yeah, especially this UTMP, WTMP, failed logins. Yeah, so these areas, and some of the users, limits, last log kind of. Yeah, and they might ask you a question like if I want to set some quota for a user, tell me on which file will you go and set the quota. So that kind of questions do come up. Yeah, and you should be prepared for. Yes, I found these question like this is part of again boot order or boot procedures. In question number one's link. So they ask like if you already have an AX system of 32-bit, how will you change to 64-bit? We can directly pitch into the technical part, but I would like to say that from AX6, AX7, they are all 64-bit. I have not found any 32-bit OS. So you can always point that, saying that no, we don't have any 32-bit. Now the IBM is shipping only 64-bit operating system. That itself says that you are an experienced guy who's working on AX day in day out. Yeah, but still, to answer the question that's been raised, if that's a 32-bit option is there, then you need to create a symbolic link for these two files, so Unix and USR libboot. Yeah, so there are some two Unix files. One is under the root and one is under USR libboot. Yeah, so you need to configure the right kernel. Yeah, there are two kernels. One is just Unix, which is 32-bit. Unix underscore 64 is a 64-bit kernel. So just you give a soft link to that particular location, then reboot the image, you will get the 64-bit image. Yeah. So the step is creating a symbolic link. So the command is given. You have to say ln-s is to create a symbolic link, and Unix underscore 64 is to create a 64-bit kernel. Yeah, so you are making two soft links. One is under root, that is /Unix, and one is under USR libboot, which is USR libboot Unix. Yeah, and you need to create a boot image. Yeah, so you just update the boot image by saying boss boot -ad, and you say the IPL device name. Yeah, so IPL is initial program loader. Yeah, so you have to give this command. It will update the boot devices, reboot the machine, and now the machine boots up with 64-bit. Yeah, a very challenging question indeed, but a very easy one as well. If you know this, you can easily win this interview. Yes. Contents of an inode. As you have seen, since we have progressed up to question number 7, you will find some 20% of question coming on to boot process, and a variety of questions of 40-50% of question coming from only the LVM side of things, logical volume manager and file systems. So inode is one of the key area. If you are thorough with inode, then that means that you are a real good L1 or L2 IBM AIX administrator. Yeah, but you cannot recollect the entire contents of inode. The best practice is to just follow through the ls-l output of a directory. Yeah, just take one line and see what is the content of ls-l or ls-li. That would be the best command. When you run ls-li, it gives the inode number. Yeah, that's the very first output that you get. So once you get chance working on an AX server or any Unix box, run ls-li and you'll see this sequence of information available for you. So first is the inode number. Every inode has a unique inode number in specific to the file system. Yeah, so you'll find that there's inode number 3. There will be another inode number 3 on the same system, but that's pertaining to a different file system. Okay, so you'll have inode number. You will have the permissions of the files. You will have who is the owner of the file, who is the group of the file. Yeah, group ownership of the file. It says about the size on the file, and it also says that when it was last modified, last accessed, and last changed. So inode has the information about that particular file with all these categories. It's not tough to recollect. Just try to remember what is the output of ls-li, and you can speak as such. Yeah, there's no any specific order since we are just checking whether you know the concepts. Yeah, so just speak on that. This is a follow-up question with the previous one on the inode. Yeah, so this used to be our icebreaker question most of the time. Tell me the difference between hard link and soft link. There are quite more stuffs in there. I'm just going to speak on few of the important things that you need to speak on hard link and soft link or symbolic link. Okay, primarily you need to speak on the inode. Yeah, like you need to say that hard link has the same inode number. Like if I create some 5 hard links, all the link files will have the same inode number, whereas symbolic link have different inode number because symbolic links are pointers to the source file. Yeah, so speak on the inode first, and also speak on the deletion of a file. Yeah, what happens if I remove a symbolic link? If I remove a symbolic link, what will happen to the source? Or if I remove the source, what will happen to the link? So in symbolic case, if I remove one of the symbolic link, data is not lost because the source file still exists because I'm only removing the pointer. If I remove the source, then symbolic link doesn't work because the pointer is pointing to a file which is non-existent. So that's about symbolic. But whereas hard link is multiple copies of your inode. So what happens is when you remove a file, one of the hard link file or even the source file, only the link count gets shrinked. Since there's another copy of an inode, your data is still intact on the hard drive. So either through one of the hard link inode, you can still point to the data block and retrieve data. So until the last hard link file is removed, your data is safe on the system. Yeah, and also you can speak on what happens if you update the file, what is the size of the file rather. Yeah, you can see that all the hard links share the same size, but in reality it's pointing to the same data block, so size is the same for all. But whereas the symbolic link is the content is just the path to the file. So if the path to the file is 10 characters, then it's 10 bytes. If it is 15 characters, it will say 15 bytes. It is immaterial to the data block. So these are the few things that you need to speak on hard link, symbolic link. I would say one important point which you should not forget during this particular question is symbolic link can span across file systems. That means I can create a symbolic link from /usr to /opt or /tmp. But whereas hard link cannot span across file system, which means from USR I cannot do it for /opt or /tmp, and hard link can only work within the file system. The reason is the inode number is not unique across file systems. Inode number is unique only within the file system. Yeah? So this is a very important point. I want you to highlight in this specific question. Yeah, expect this question on some of the interviews where people are looking for your knowledge on file systems. Yes, this question has also been asked. Even I have asked many guys, and in some interviews, people do ask me as well. Some of the standard ports used inside Unix. Yeah, and this is the standard network ports, and it's common across all operating systems like Windows, whatever OS you take, it still applies there. And it's sometimes you may not recollect the port numbers. Then the option is you can say the port numbers are defined under etc services. Yeah, you can tell them that under etc services there are the port number mappings. Okay, and these are the common port numbers that's been asked in interview, like what's the port number of FTP, what's the port number of SSH, Telnet, SMTP, TFTP, HTTP, HTTPS, POP3, and RPC. I've not seen people asking anything other than this. They expect these services and their port numbers are to be known by a system administrator. Even if we wake up on sleep and ask you, okay, tell me what is the SSH port number, you should be promptly saying that it's 22. If we ask you what is HTTP port, you should say 80. And HTTPS default is 443, and you can say that for security reason you can set any other value. Yeah. So these 10 port numbers you should be by heart, and if any other port number is asked, you can always say I will verify or cross check with the etc services. Okay, it's not Google. In Unix world, we will not speak on Google, but rather we'll say all the help is inside the AIX system itself. So you can say that under etc services, I'll check the port number mappings. Yeah. So these 10 ports be very much confident with. Okay, nowadays people are looking into more ODM related commands and ODM related knowledge. Yeah, some 5 to 6 years back, engineers are not allowed to run ODM commands. Yeah, we always raise tickets with IBM, and the IBM used to send us a procedure, and we type in the same commands, create results, document it, and send it back to IBM. And IBM comes back with a solution. But nowadays, even the engineers are capable of doing ODM based commands. So they used to ask some of the ODM commands and some information regarding ODM. Okay, I've seen that some of my tech panelists are asking questions like, okay, I speak on VPD. They don't even say what is vital product data. They just say, okay, speak on VPD. So you should be able to point some of the key areas that I've listed. So VPD is nothing but a collection of configuration and informational data. Yeah, so that's the vital data of a system, correct? The configuration information and some of the informational data that system has, and it's a subset of ODM. Yeah, like I would say the major portion of ODM is VPD. So at sometimes people do refer VPD as ODM and ODM as VPD. That's why I say it's interchangeably used. Yeah. The next one is like what information is stored inside VPD. So normally the part numbers, like what are the hardware you have and their model numbers and other information, their serial numbers, and the change levels, like from what TLs or what software levels, yeah, and the object class and platform specific informations are also stored inside the VPD. Yeah, not necessarily mean that all the devices inside your machine has a VPD data. VPD is a very vital information about vital product information are stored. It is not about all the hardwares. Not all hardwares are vital. Yeah. So like we say the hard drives and these are some of the vital areas, and they don't take care of the console and monitor, so the mouse and so on and so forth. Yeah. So that's all these 10 questions comprises of, and primarily the objective is like these 10 questions you will find at least 1 or 2 coming on your interview, and this is the initial questions asked just after you tell me about yourself. You have a very positive tell me about yourself, and the next 1 or 2 questions asked on this area you clear, you are obviously looked at as an L2 engineer. Yeah. So There are some more coming up sessions, like we have covered the 10 interview questions today on the basic. Yeah, on 8th of December, 15th and 21st, we are planning to have another 10 new questions on different category. On 8th of December, we are planning to have a virtualization, VIO, LPAR, DLPAR, WPAR kind of questions coming up on 8th of December. And 15th of December, we will be having a NIM related questions, another 10 more questions from network installation, and another 10 more questions coming from 21st December based on Power HA, the clustering. Yeah. So in an interview, there are hardly 40 questions, and it's asked randomly, and I'm going to cover all those 40 questions. So just with this webinar, you are equipped to be an AIX guy in any MNC or in any AIX system admin jobs. Yeah. And the courses offered in TTA are based on these steps. Like foundation is primarily deals with the questions that we have addressed today, the basic system administration kind of, and expert is for the NIM, VIO, and HSCMP. Master level is primarily towards the processes, internships, cloud computing, and so on and so forth, where we actually make you a subject matter expert. Yeah. Visit our website, which is on http://talent.co.in, and you can see more information pertaining to that. Yeah. So having said that, I'm done with the webinar. Yeah. This session is being recorded. Yeah. If you need this recording, you can reach TTA and put up a request, and you can gain access to this. Yeah. So having said that, I'm just stopping this recording and waiting for some Q&A. You can type your Q&A onto the chat session,